Hello lovelies, it's me, Tanya from Tanya Talks. Welcome. If you have been here before and you check in with me, then howdy, how you doing? Thank you for checking in again. If you're new, then a big welcome. Thank you for dropping in and spending some time with me. Today it's sunny but windy and cold as get out. Feels weird filming in here again. We're moving the rooms around. I was just downstairs at the moment. It's actually quite nice. I can sit there on the bed, there's black canvas behind me. But obviously, end of the day, everyone's home. And I don't know what it is, but I can do pretty much anything in front of the hubby. I mean, you know, he's done the beautiful baths, obviously. He's seen me give it birth. I can go to the loo in front of him. We've showered together. I know that's TMI, I'm sorry. You know, but all those things. We eat together, fart, all those things. And yet, I can't film in front of him. I just can't do it. I just have this thing where he's going to take a piss out of me. I don't know why. I just literally feel that every time I'm about to do one, if he's there, he's going to take the absolute piss out of me. So I've come back up to the old filming room and I'm perched on a beanbag. I'm borrowing my daughter's little ring light, which is tinier than mine, which is why you can see so much of this, because it's quite low and I'm having to lean down like that. But all's good. All's good. Anyway, welcome to another episode of Mysterious. Cue scary music and effects because I still haven't got my new laptop, so I can't edit it, cool little intro that I had at the beginning of Mysterious. But, oh yeah, never mind, fine on the day. It's all about zombies. I'm sorry, I've got a bit of stuff here. Oh yeah, I had to put up my double chin, I'm sorry, I tried. All things zombie. So, it's surprising when looking into zombies because I like zombies. I know that's weird. Absolutely weird. I do like them. I used to absolutely petrified of them. And then I started watching more and more zombie programs and I started getting really into it. And I read zombie novels, zombie survival books. And yeah, I think it's fascinating. And I thought, yeah, I'll do a video, talk about the old shoppers, Walking Dead. And there is a lot of zombiness in the natural world. So, first up, we have a fungi. And this is going to be an episode of names that I find really hard to pronounce and I look really stupid. Ophicordyceps. Ophicordyceps, I think. I'll write it down in the description, but I think that's how you pronounce it. This is a fungi that infects insects. And one of the insects it is known for infecting is carpenter ants. Now, this fungi, it likes to infect the insects for its spores, obviously. And then once the infection is established, it starts to take control of the ant. It basically renders them mindless. They're just controlled by this fungi. Now, they sort of feed off of and into the ant, but still keeping them alive. And with the carpenter ant, they literally have this compelling urge to climb to like the tallest sort of vegetation or grass, and they just stay there stock still, basically waiting to die, so that obviously they're up the tall bit of, say, grass, and then the spores can spread out over a wider distance, infecting more insects. Now, there is a quote, I should do little quotes, and it's basically that in essence, the ants were fungi in ants' clothing, end quote. And that was from David Hughes, a professor of entomology. So, becoming mindless zombied creatures doing the will of the ant. Then, again, with animals, there is a scary, and it's scary, even the scientists have said it's quite scary what they have witnessed, because they haven't really witnessed anything sort of like it before. Now, this is well, sort of, it's with a species of spider called a Eximus spider. Now, these spiders are tiny, and they're really sociable. They're almost like a pack animal. They hang out in groups, and those groups will hang out within a bigger colony. Now, see, it's the names again. There's so many names. So I can't they all just have something simple. A lot of you may know of some of this sort of story. It's the wasps and the spiders. A lot of us have seen this on Nature Channel. But it's the zatypota wasp. Now, they lay their eggs on the abdomen of the spider, so that when their larvae hatch out like an alien, the larvae start to feed on the spider. But as they do so, the larvae then, like with the carpenter ants, control the spider. They're still sort of eating them because it's their food. Obviously, these are like little baby grubs and they're eating them. But while they're doing it, their mind, they're linked with the spider. They've completely controlled it. The spider does whatever it wants. It is a shuffling spreader for the wasp larvae. It turns a switch on in the spider's head that all of a sudden they feel compelled to leave their colony, leave their little groups that they've got, and just go off on their own. And then they start to spin cocoon-like webs. Now, this is unlike any web that these spiders, spiders don't really, not these ones, they do not do these sort of webs. And what then happens is they've made these webs, these little cocoons, and once their job is done, the larvae finish eating the spider, killing them off, and then they scurry off and enter the little cocoon where they stay safe and warm and cozy until they emerge as adult wasps to start the cycle all over again. It's mind-blowing just how many kind of mind-controlled animals in a zombified state nature creates. We even have zombie plants. Now, in 2014, in the UK, professors noticed something going on with the bacteria. Now, this is a name again. Phytoplasma. Now, this bacteria can totally alter almost in a way it alters the genetics of the plant. It takes over plants such as goldenrods, which produce big blooms of yellow plants, well, yellow blossoms, I should say. Beg your pardon. Now, this isn't useful to the bacteria. They want more like surface area for their bacteria to get out, and I suppose more insects to eat this plant to produce, to take more of the bacteria and spread it to other plants. So they don't want flowers. They literally make the plant produce more leaves instead, and almost literally stop flowering. They just produce all these leaves. Now, there's a quote from one of the scientists, and that just embodies what we sort of think of as zombies. And it is that basically these plants become the living dead. Yeah, see? Living dead. That's what you think of when you think of the typical zombie. Living dead. Their aim is basically just to spread the infection. And that quote was from Professor Gunther Friedband. I hope I said that right. So among the ones that we've seen so far, zombie plants are, in essence, the closest so far that we've come to what we think of as zombies, the living dead. There's nothing there apart from the need to spread the infection, to carry on spreading and growing their numbers, and the infection carries on doing its thing. It's kind of scary in a way. But one of the scariest things is reanimated viruses. Now, obviously we can't do Dr. Frankenstein yet. We don't know how to reanimate humans. Not yet. I mean, I say not yet because we're always doing things, aren't we? We're always learning, playing God, fiddling around. But we have been able to reanimate organisms. And the scary thing with that is these organisms are viruses. Not just any old little virus. Oh no, these are giant viruses. Now in 2014, there was a lot going on in 2014. Giant viruses, zombie plants. Big year for zombies. In 2014, a giant virus was dug up out of the Siberian permafrost. Now, this giant virus contained 500 genes. If you compare this with some other viruses such as HIV, they only contain around 12 genes. But not only are these viruses scary because of that whole whammy of DNA that they carry, they are bloody tough. They are almost impervious to heat, to freezing temperatures, as that one in Siberian permafrost was, and they are almost impossible to break open. Now, when this virus was on Ford and came back to life, it started to infect things. Luckily, it only affected amoebas, but because of this, a lot of scientists are worried that there are hidden in the ice, maybe some even in hot desert places too, safe, hidden, out of the way, that could carry the power and the genetics in them to actually be deadly to us. Now you've got to think as well that this bacteria, I keep saying bacteria, begging your pardon, this virus that they found was over 30,000 years old, and once brought back to life it still had the ability to infect things. Now scientists think that because obviously they dug theirs up, but with global warming, climate change, people drilling for oils, fracking, everything like that, the chances that there is a dormant virus out there with the ability to have some kind of DNA in it that could mutate with us or cause us to have, a lot of scientists are very, very scared about reanimated giant viruses. And obviously there's the voodoo zombie. The voodoo zombies, I didn't really write down too much about for this episode because, and I'm not digging on voodoo because, voodoo's powerful. It's almost like that power of suggestion and the power of belief. And that is a very strong thing. And I wouldn't want someone like bringing it on to me because I do think that there is some great power in voodoo. But for me, the voodoo zombie is more about, the suggestion and the hypnotic suggestion and the potions and the pills and the rendering them mindless and controlled through kind of taking away memories of what they were. They're not like, it's not like an infection or a bacteria or a virus or the living dead coming back. So they get a little honorary mention, but they're not totally what I'm looking for in this whole video. Now, we've looked at some of the things in nature that are zombified and some of the things that worry people with the reanimated viruses. Now I've got a little treat for you. Some zombie attacks that have left people baffled and they don't know how or why they happened. Ooh, yeah. Now, I only looked up two because there are ones that are like through drugs. There was the bath salts incident, wasn't there? And there's the Klondike or something drug that a lot of Russians were having, and because it causes a lot of gangrene and it eats your organs and basically leaves you like rotting, and sometimes I believe it can leave your ribs exposed and your skin literally rotting off and your mind is like and you shuffle. You know, it can literally make you like a zombie, but it's not. I mean, maybe if zombies did happen, that is what would be the thing that made them. Maybe I shouldn't dismiss it so much. It might be a drug that suddenly you get enough of these drug takers that are ambling around like that, and they suddenly do decide they want to nibble on a bit of human flesh, and that could be the start of it. But there would be a reason to it. There would be something behind it. But these just seem like strange, baffling attacks that people don't know why it happened and what was the triggers behind it. So I thought I'd share that, and we'll have a little chat-see at the end. Now the first one, they're both in Florida. Sorry, Florida people. We have one in 2016. It is a young 19-year-old student, and I think it was in a place called Jupiter in Florida. Now, he was at a restaurant with his parents dining when suddenly he got mad at the slow service in the restaurant and stormed off, leaving his parents there. His name was Austin Horoff. I will link names in the description so you can tell me that I pronounce everything awfully. But yeah, anyway. Meanwhile, as he's storming out in his little hissy fit, there is a couple sitting in their garage with the door open, enjoying the evening. It is Michelle Michonne. I'm sorry. Shouldn't laugh. Tragic. It's just a Michonne. It makes me think Walking Dead. And John Stevens III. Sorry, I checked my notes there. Now, obviously, their paths would cross when Austin came upon them, and for no apparent reason, it was meant to be very unprovocated, pulled his switchblade out on them, which kind of is strange that he actually went to the restaurant with a switchblade on him. But anywho, he stabbed them to death. Now, a neighbour did try and intervene, and he managed to call 911 to get help, but he himself was stabbed as well. I don't know if he lived or died. Now, when the police arrived, they found our little Austin stripped naked. It's a naked thing. Why? Maybe it's a primal thing. It's the clothes restricting and you become more primal. But anyway, he was stripped naked. He was kneeling on the floor in front of the dead bodies, and he was ripping off pieces of their flesh and eating it. All the while, he was grunting and growling and making sort of animal strange sounds. Now, the police, they tried talking to him. They tried stun guns. They had a police dog, and nothing that they tried so far would get Austin away from his meal. In the end, it took 3 officers with a lot of force to drag him away. Now, previously, up until this event, even though he carries a switchblade to him to a restaurant and he had a hissy fit and left, but that could have been the beginnings of the strange meltdown in his body and his mind. He was a model student, totally to all sort of knowledge, had his shit together and was seemingly an okay guy. His toxicology report came back clean. They didn't have any clue what had done this, and police were left baffled. A few years previous to this, in 2012, this is in Florida, in Miami, a man called Rudy Eugene decided that a homeless guy called Ronald Popo would make a tasty meal. Now, when the police came to this scene, our Rudy was naked. It's got to be a primal thing. Like this primal animal instinct comes over and you take your clothes off or something, because it's all very weird otherwise. I mean, you don't see the zombies on the TV and the films all stripped naked wandering around, do you? But anyway, he was naked. Our Rudy had eaten 80% of Ronald's face. Now, obviously, with the scene that they came upon, the police had no choice but to shoot him. And apparently, our Rudy's body withstood more bullets than a human physically could. And he stood up and carried on for quite a while before he finally went down. Once again, his toxicology report was pretty much clean, apart from a trace amount of marijuana. Now, what in the heck do you think that was all about? Is it a sign that there are zombies among us, but it isn't exactly how we imagined it to be? Is it that there's some switch clicks off in some people's brain and they go back to primal instincts where there is no sense, no rhyme, no reason to them, except for, like they say in zombie programs, the need to feed? Is that what happens? It is just... and then we do suddenly snap. Is that how it's really going to happen? Personally, for me, I think if it is going to happen, it's not going to be some weird meteorite that crashes and something comes out and everyone starts rising from their graves or anything like some of the old films. The way the world is going, it could be a nuclear thing and the people that are left behind or are in more of the zones get mutated and something like that makes them zombies. But a theory that I do find fascinating, especially with the reanimated viruses and maybe that little primal switch that clicks on, is, I don't know if any of you have read it. If you haven't, I suggest reading them. There's a series of books, they're called Flesh News, and the first one's called Feed. And the premise in these books is that there was a scientist who managed to make a vaccine that cured the common cold. And there's another scientist who managed to make a vaccine that cured cancer. Now, separately, these things are amazing. They worked brilliantly. They were being, tested. People in the, the following series, following years of T-0, hadn't had a cold. Cancer was gone. The person they gave the first cancer on to cured her. Perfect. But as the way of people unfortunately are, what they did in those books is a group of, I don't know what you call them, terrorists, but like some kind of terror group. You know when you get a certain set, it's like when we had the animal testing ones, and I'm totally anti animal testing, as some of you know that watch my beauty videos. I always try and use cruelty-free products, and if it isn't, then I just won't bother, unless I accidentally bought something that I thought was and turns out it isn't. But yeah, I don't agree in using an animal to make myself beautiful or for whatever reason when there are other good things out there. But obviously I'm not stupid enough to let them out when you don't know what diseases they could be carrying, what infections have been put in them. But we had that thing, didn't we, a while back, where activists were letting them all out, and these people broke in because, I don't know, they didn't agree with it. A bit like how we have the people that were saying all the stuff about the COVID. I'm not saying that anti-vaxxers are wrong. We've all allowed our own opinion, and I'm not saying that every anti-vaxxer would do that, but you had the extreme groups, didn't you, that was saying loads of stuff. So they're sort of like that. And they went in but I think they were still going through trials or something. It was the first person that got tested with it, but, it wasn't widespread yet. And they took them and they spread them everywhere. And when they mingled together, that is when in certain people it mutated and caused zombies. So that it's almost like The Walking Dead in this story. Everyone has it. Everyone's infected with it. And when you die, you instantly become a zombie. So it's sort of like The Walking Dead premise. But in a way, I do think it could be something like that. We've had so many different illnesses and different pandemics that have arisen. I mean, obviously the Spanish flu was the last major one, and you sort of get complacent, don't you? And then along came the COVID virus, and scientists saying that there could be more. There's bound to be more viruses and more pandemics like this. It could be worse, it could be longer. The possibility we've seen is out there, and obviously we don't want to have these things. We're going to always try to make medicines and vaccines and try and cure it, because that is in our nature to survive. And yeah, but what if just one day, what if we do go a little too far? What if it is almost playing God and it is that mingles and we do create zombies? What if that is the turning point and we do get the shufflers and the Walking Dead, and it does happen? I don't know, just one of those things. But the fact that I think most people, if you're going to have a cannibalistic moment, you can usually tell quite early on that they have the ideas, like the Japanese killer that killed his French sort of friend from the university course he was on, because he was fascinated with cannibalism and eating human flesh and the sexual fantasy side of that. You sort of knew that. The man that I think killed and ate some different gay lovers, I think that was a person, unless I'm making up some weird shit, but I think that's saying, you know, people had little clues. I don't think you would, I mean, they could have hidden it, but it's the fact that they both went naked, they both took a lot of force and a lot of, in the end, bullets and stuff to take them down with our little Austin and our Rudy. And with Austin, the primal sort of guttural grunts and growls he was making when he was eating them. Is that what it's going to be? It's not how, like I said, we imagined it. It's just going to be, in some of us, there is a very deep primal switch that turns on, and that need to feed, and unfortunately feed on people, becomes really strong. Who knows? It could just be weird circumstances, weird moments where shit's happened and no one will ever explain it. But it's interesting, and I do like to think about these weird things. Anyway, what do you think? Weird moments, a drug that is undetectable in toxicology reports made them do it. Excuse me. Were they cannibalistic and we just didn't know? Was it just a weird, freaky coincidence? You know, what are your stances on zombies? Are you those sort of people who look at, unfortunately I am, that you look at certain places and you go, if there's zombie apocalypse, I think that's a good place. You can shut that down and barricade it. That would be a good one. I've even thought about, if we do build a house eventually, having zombie-proof shutters. Some of these houses you can see. But then I thought to my little self, like you do, if it's run on electric, which some of them, I think you switch the switch. If it's a major zombie apocalypse and all the grid goes down, you're not going to either be able to get them down or get them back up, and you're going to starve to death anyway inside, which it could be better than being eaten, I don't know. But I've decided that I'm just going to have its manual labour and the kids can help crank it, and we'll just crank them down so they come down. Or run on wind or something. But yeah, I do think about these things. But I think as well that there are so many sort of zombified, mindless taking over of like animals and plants and things, that there are sort of zombiness out there. It's fascinating. I also think the giant viruses are quite scary. You know, we've seen what viruses can do. We've seen what the COVID has done. How many people that's wiped off. If there is some weird virus out there that's waiting, that's been, you know, centuries old, what could it do? Food for thought. And that's quite funny. Food for thought. Zombie. Anywho, if you liked this, thumbs up, notifications, ding-a-ling, so you can see more of this weird ramblings and all those fun things. But yeah, comment below. What do you think? Zombies? Yay? No? Could be? Will never be? Weird coincidences? Just weird cannibalistic freaks? Who knows? I want to know your thoughts and opinions. Anywho, my kids are getting stressed out. They want me, and fun time. I'm sorry you had to put up with this lovely angle of me. It's really weird having such a low down stand. But anyway, have a lovely evening. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. Be safe. Be good. Try not to eat too many people. Bye!